Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, we are from group 8.
My name is Yulia Regi Magdalena, NPM 2202040025.
And I, Nurul Aziza, in PM 2202040008. Now we will presentation our material about
A. Cooperative language learning. B. Content-based instruction.
C. Text-based language teaching. Okay, let's talk about it.
A. Cooperative language learning. Background. Cooperative language learning, or CLL, is a part of a more general instructional approach, also known as collaborative learning, or CL. Cooperative learning is an approach to teaching that makes maximum use of cooperative activities involving peers and small groups of learners in the classroom. It has been defined as follows. Cooperative learning is a group learning activity organized so that learning is dependent on the socially structured exchange of information between learners in groups and in which each learner is held accountable for his or her own learning and is motivated to increase the learning of the others. Approach. Theory of language in its application, CLL is used to support both structural and functional models as well as instructional models of language. Since CLL activities may be used to focus on language from as well as to practice particular language function. Theory of learning cooperative learning is the instructional use of small groups, through which students work together to maximize their own and each other's learning. Next, design. Objective. Since CLL is an approach designed to foster cooperation rather than competition, to develop critical thinking skills, and to develop socially structured interaction activities. This can be regarded as the overall objectives of CLL. More specific objectives will derive from the content in which it is used. Next, the syllabus. CLL does not assume any particular form of language syllabus, since activities from a wide variety of curriculum orientation can be taught via cooperative learning. Thus, we find CLL used in teaching content classes, ESP, the four skills, grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. Next, types of learning and teaching activities. 1. Formal cooperative learning groups. 2. Informal cooperative learning groups. 3. Cooperative-based groups. Next, learner rules. The primary rule of the learner is a member of a group who must work collaboratively on tasks with other group members. Next, teacher's rules. The role of the teacher in CLL differs considerably from the role of teachers in traditional teacher-fronted lessons. The teacher has to create a highly structured and well-organized learning environment in the classroom, setting goals, planning and structuring tasks, establishing the physical arrangement of the classroom, assigning students to group and roles, and selecting materials and time. Next, the role of instructional materials. Materials play an important part in creating opportunities for students to work cooperatively. The same materials can be used as are used in other types of lessons, but variations are required in how the materials are use. Next, procedure. The procedure works in the following way. You can see it in this slide. Next, conclusion. Use of discussion groups, groups work, and pair work has often been advocated both in teaching language and in other subjects. Typically, such groups are used to provide a change from the normal pace of classroom events and to increase the amount of student participation in lessons. B. Content-based instruction. Background. Content-based instruction, or CBE, refers to an approach to second language teaching in which teaching is organized around the content or information that students will acquire rather than around a linguistic or other type of syllabus. Next, approach. 1. People learn a second language more successfully when they use the language as a means of acquiring information rather than as an end in itself. That it leads to more effective language learning. 2. Content-based instruction better reflect learners' need for learning a second language. Next, theory of language. A number of assumptions about the nature of language underlie content-based instruction. Language is text and discourse-based CBE addresses the role of language as a vehicle for learning content. Language use draws on integrated skills CBE. Views language use as involving several skills together. Language is purposeful. Language is used for specific purposes. The purpose may be academic, vocational, social, or recreational, but it gives direction, shape, and ultimately meaning to discourse and text. Next, theory of learning. We earlier described one of the core principles of CBE as follows. People learn a second language more successfully when they use the language as a means of acquiring information rather than as an end in itself. This principle emphasizes that in CBE the content that students study is selected according to their needs. Hence, if the program is at a secondary school, the academic needs of students across the curriculum form the basis for the content curriculum. Next, design. Objectives. Objectives were 1. To activate and develop existing English language skills. 2. To acquire learning skills and that could be applied in future language development opportunities. 3. To develop general academic skills applicable to university studies in all subject areas. 4. To broaden students' understanding of English-speaking peoples. Next, syllabus. In most CBE courses, the syllabus is derived from the content area, and this obviously vary widely in detail and format. It is typically only CBE following the theme-based model in which content and instructional sequence is chosen according to language learning goals. Next, type of learning and teaching activities. There are a number of descriptions of activity types in CBE. The classification categories the purpose are 1. Language skills improvement. 2. Vocabulary building. 3. Discourse organization. 4. Communicative interaction. 5. Study skills. 6. Synthesis of content materials and grammar.
Goals. One goal of CBI is for learners to become autonomous so that they come to understand their own learning process and take charge of their own learning from the very start. In addition, most CBI courses anticipate that students will support each other in collaborative modes of learning. Learners are expected to be active interpreters of input, willing to tolerate and constantly along the path of learning, willing to explore alternative learning strategies, and willing to seek multiple interpretations of oral and written text. Next, the role of teachers. CBI anticipates of change in the typical roles of language teacher. Instructors must be more than just good language teachers. They must be knowledgeable in subject matter and able to elicit that knowledge from their students. At a more detailed level, teachers have to keep context and comprehensibility foremost in their planning and presentation. They are responsible for selecting and adapting authentic material for use in class. They become student needs analysis and they have to create truly learned content classroom. The role of materials as with other elements in CBI. The materials that facilitate language learning are the materials that are used typically with the subject matter of the content course. Next, you can see it in this slide. Procedure. At the level of procedure, teaching materials and activities are selected according to the extent to which they match the type of program it is. Next, you can see it in this slide. Next, conclusion. Content-based approaches in language teaching have been widely used in a variety of different settings since the 1980s. From its earliest application in ESP, EOP, and immersion programs, it is now widely used in K-12 programs for ESL students in university foreign language programs, and in business and vocational courses in EFL settings. Next topic, task-based language teaching. The background. Task-based language teaching, or TBLT, refers to an approach based on the use of tasks of the core unit of learning and instruction in language teaching. Next, approach, theory of language and theory of learning. You can see it in this slide. Next, design, objectives. There are few published for perhaps fully implement example of complete language programs that claim to be fully based on most recent formulation of TBLT. The syllabus. The difference between a conventional language syllabus and a task-based one are discussed below. A conventional syllabus typically specifies the content of a course from among these categories. 1. Language structure. 2. Function. 3. Topics and themes. 3. Macro skills. It's reading, writing, listening, speaking. And next, competencies. Next, text types. Next, vocabulary targets. Next, Dunan 1989 suggests that a syllabus might specify two types of tasks. 1. Real-world tasks, which are designed to practice or rehearse those tasks that are found to be important in a needs analysis and turn out to be important and useful in their real work. 2. Tasks, which have a physical linguistic basis in SLA theory and research, but do not necessarily reflect real-world tasks. Types of learning and teaching activities. A language learning task can be regarded as a springboard for learning work. In a broad sense, it is a structure planned for the provision of opportunities for the refinement of knowledge and capabilities entailed in a new language and is used during communication. Next, learner roles and teacher roles. You can see it in this slide. The role of instructional materials, pedagogic materials. A wide variety of realia can also be used as a resource for TBI. Realia, newspapers, televisions, internet. Next, procedure needs analysis identify target tasks the student needed to be able to carry out in English, including Next, conclusion. TBLT, however, offers a different rationale for the use of tasks as well as different criteria for design and use of tasks. It is the dependence of tasks as the primary source of pedagogical input the teaching, and the absence of a systematic, grammatical, or other type of syllabus that characterizes current version of TBLT, and that this squeeze in from the use of tasks in competency-based language teaching, another task-based approach, but one that is not wedded to the theoretical framework and assumption of TBLT. Many aspects of TBLT have yet to be justified, such as purposes for task types, task sequencing, and evaluation of task performance. Okay guys, that's all from me. See you in next video. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.